UK, and I think
sure.
Siri is a man in the UK. So I don't know if there's any. Have we heard that? Is that true?
That's just changed
What?
my world.
I don't know. So hi, I'm Doug Leeds. I'm the CEO of Ask.com, and I'm really happy to be in a situation where I don't have to explain what Ask.com is. You all know what that is. We're the 7th biggest site on the internet in the US, but I end up having to always say, we used to be Ask Jeeves, we're a question and answer. But anyway, you guys all know that, so that's great. And I wanted to talk to you about really a social experiment that we're using at Ask today to create innovation that I thought I would share with you because it's been quite remarkable. But before I get started, I wanted you to do something for me. So if you would, I know you're all tweeting and I see it going, but put your phones down for a second and put your hands together like this. Just put your hands together like that, okay, so it's comfortable. Now, take your hands apart and put it so the other thumb is on top, okay? Does that feel a little bit awkward and a little bit weird, a little bit different? Yeah? I mean, it's kind of crazy that something so simple can make you feel awkward. But this is how I ask my employees to feel every day, awkward and weird. And I do this to get innovation. But let me take a step back, and if you don't mind, I have a couple notes which I'm going to refer to. But so you all know about Ask Jeeves and Ask.com and sort of our meandering through the search landscape. And when I came on a couple years ago as CEO, we were sort of looking for our identity again. We had been talking a lot and spent millions and millions of dollars on television advertising, talking about search better. Searching better was never really a need for consumers. They were getting searched just fine. Sorry, Bing, but really, it works at Google, and it didn't resonate. But what did resonate, which was interesting, and the reason why we had never really lost market share, is because questions and answers psychographically was a different use case. And I think you kind of saw that in the survey results, that there was, find something on one side or research and get answers on another side. And they're a different use case, and our users continued to use us for questions and answers, even as they use Google predominantly for search. I don't want to say pivot, we reoriented our company back to questions and answers, and that has made a huge difference. We have grown 35% year over year. Our revenue and profits are growing greater than that. But what happened was about last year, about this time last year, you could see that our growth trajectory was really almost hockey sticking from where we had been. And I had realized that we had a big problem with that, and which is, what's the next big thing? We hadn't done anything really new in a long time. I mean, we moved back to questions and answers, but questions and answers wasn't new for us. It was a return to our roots. How do we get to something that was really new, something that was different, something that can continue our growth? Mobile certainly was part of this, and mobile's been growing. I'm sure you all see it, and we heard from the panel about how much they use mobile, and we've seen it too. But it wasn't a step function change. It was incremental. And how do we get to a step function change? So I think what most CEOs would at least think about doing is I went in front of a company like this, in this kind of setting, and said, I need your ideas. We have really smart people, people from sort of all walks of life. Tell me what we can do differently, given what we have, to do something and really change the game for us, continue this growth. And my folks went back and they thought about it and they came to me with proposals. And I would say the most popular proposal that I got back on this was, we need new office chairs. Now, I mean, you can understand that if your back hurts, you can't really think about anything else, and that's going to increase your productivity, but it's not a game changer. So what was wrong? I mean, what were we doing wrong? The performance of the company is great, but we're thinking about office chairs. So I got the office chairs, but I also started reading and seeing what can we do to really change the game. And I read some business books, but actually it was a book. It was Tina Fey's biography, actually, which was most impactful for me on this. I think everyone knows who Tina Fey is, right? She's former head writer of Saturday Night Live and now 30 Rock. But her book talks about as becoming a media executive, especially in the place where she has to generate creativity, it was her improv background which really made the difference for her. Why would that be? Well, it turns out that in our brains, right, we've heard sort of the cocktail party science about left brain and right brain. In our brains, we do, for our purposes, it's good enough to know there's a left brain and a right brain. Left brain is very analytical, right brain is very creative. And the analytical part works great with habits, and the creative part really needs to break free with habits. What happens in our workplace today is, sort of evolutionary speaking, some of the biggest threats we have today keep us in our habits. So, you can imagine yourself in the savannah in Africa, millennia ago, and your biggest threat is a panther in the tree. And you have to always look out for panthers in the tree, and that's what... Today, we don't have panthers in the tree. The equivalent is sitting around a conference room table and, or a meeting and raising your hand and saying something that your coworkers or your boss thinks is stupid, right? And getting that look like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that look, that's the equivalent of the panther in the tree today. That is the equivalent of sort of the threat and the death in today's culture. And because we have that, we zip it up. We don't talk, or what we call it work bulletproofing. We don't say anything until we know exactly what we're going to say. Maybe we've even looked at the data, we've analyzed it, we've A/B tested it, we've marked it against behavior, and then we say, I got the solution. Well, that is a problem. That blocks us from our creativity. And what improv does is it gets you uncomfortable, but you have fun with it. It makes you feel different, like your thumbs, right? But it makes it okay and accepting. And it does it through a principle called yes and, which means basically whatever you say is accepted, not necessarily agreed with, which is different, but accepted, and then you build on it. So I'm going to show you a video of how we sort of get in that spirit, and we do this every week of yes-anding. Then we'll try a little bit of it. So why don't we just roll the video here? It's 90 seconds.
So what we're looking for is things that go together, all right? So if you think, for example, if somebody decided that they were going to be a tree, and they went out in the center and they were a tree, what would things be complementary to go with a tree? Name some things.
A bird.
A bird.
An apple.
An apple.
Leaves.
Leaves.
Grass.
Grass around the tree, right. So lots of things that are complementary to, that go with that, okay? Then we have a new start, and we add something complementary to that, the tree now being gone. So and then we move like the bird or the grass, and we have something new, and we add a new complement to that. So it's a series of quick complements. So if somebody would put the first object in, whatever, so that we can add a complement to it. Okay?
I'm a teapot.
Okay, so somebody add something to this.
I'm a mouse living in the teapot.
Okay, so thank you. We moved the teapot out, and we have a mouse. Somebody add something complementary to the mouse.
Yeah, I'm a wedge of cheese.
Okay, so we moved the mouse, and now we need something complementary to the wedge of cheese. Maybe a golden cheese
I have
grater.
a glass of wine.
Okay.
All right, so you can see the aspect of this that makes this bring out your creativity is you're listening, you're present in this, you have to know what's going on right around. You're open to anything that can happen, right? You're flexible, but you're also crazy and kooky and unique, and it's okay to be different, right? Let's try it for a second. So everybody has at their table, I think, well, I was going to use a different object, but you wouldn't be able to touch it, and it's more important to touch it. So everyone has one of these, right? A pen. So pick up the pen, look at it, and just yell out something here. What can you use this thing for other than as a pen, other than writing? Stabbing. Yeah, I can take some like, man, you did! Yeah, exactly, stabbing. What else? Drumming, especially if you had two of them. Great. What else? Signing what? Ask.com IOs? Yeah, great. Thank you. It's out of ink suddenly. What? Hold your hair up and pin your hair back. Exactly. Yeah, that's great. What else? What? Scratch your back. Gravity checker is always a good one. What else? Pointing. Who said that? Right there. Good. So who didn't say something just now? Why not? Were you thinking? It's just not your style. I'm asking you why you didn't say something. To people who didn't say something, it's a little selection bias about getting an answer. But what was it? Were you? Let me suggest some reasons why you might not have said something. You were thinking about the right thing to say. You weren't necessarily listening to what other people said. There wasn't a lot of building on these things, by the way, which is fine. There wasn't a lot of building. Someone said pointer, and someone else say, "Oh yes, you could attach it to your arm, and you could always point to something out." I mean, there wasn't a lot of building, but it's okay. But that means sometimes that people are thinking about the next thing they want to say, trying to make it sound good, and all these ideas sounded good, but it's that process of thinking ahead, of trying to anticipate where things are going to go, that leads people oftentimes to not say anything, right? And to not get more ideas out there and not follow up those ideas. Now, those skill set of thinking ahead, of planning, of being analytical, I mean, they're super important, and everyone in this room knows that. I mean, search, if it's for you like it is for me, is one of the most analytical, data-driven, incremental sciences, if you will, or arts, some blend, that we have. But that's also the problem, is that's a skill set which is perfectly appropriate at certain times and not at all appropriate at other times. So when we rolled this out to the whole company, or when I rolled this out to the whole company, because I will take responsibility, especially since at the beginning people were like, "You're fucking crazy to do this." But I rolled it out to the whole company, and what they said was, "This is great, but when are we going to do this? When do we have time for this?" So we took every Friday, and the second half of every Friday, we do what you just saw. We start with some games around the company. It doesn't have to all happen in one place. And you start with some creativity exercises that are come out in Improv, and then you start brainstorming. And you brainstorm on ideas that can have some work relation or can have, be bigger picture stuff, but you bring in people from all parts of the organization. This is why we trained everybody, from receptionists to secretary to lawyers, which actually was a lot easier than I thought it would be, to finance people, and to the engineers and the product managers. And we've started to see just sort of amazing results in unexpected places. So we launched a new app at South by Southwest this year, which came exclusively from doing these things. It was called Poll Roll, and it was built out of a brainstorming session. We developed a new way to launch code to our site that cut time by about 50% from the time the code was done to the time it got launched. And that was an idea that actually came out of someone in HR's head who was sitting in an ops meeting, because that's what you do on Fridays. You join some other conversation that you're not normally a part of. And we also do analytics in a new way, and that came out of a hackathon, which came out of a brainstorming session, which people said we need to do this more often. And then we actually did find the big idea being the next thing that's a step function in our company. I can't talk about that because I actually am flying right after this to New York to hopefully buy a company that's going to help us do that. But it's the next idea. It's the next idea, and it's been really, really cool for us. I just wanted to give you guys some exposure to this. The point I'm trying to make is that there's a skill set. I've seen it at Ask not being used for years, and we were very successful. But it's that skill set of creativity, of being comfortable with being uncomfortable, having fun, which is what improv does and makes it all work. It doesn't work. You can't be crazy. You can't throw your hand up and feel like it's going to be okay if it isn't in a spirit of fun and outrageousness that everyone's doing it. But when you get that, you start getting this sense of, experiencing creative collaboration and the ability to tap into the right side of your brain, and real creative leaps that you wouldn't get otherwise. And I wanted to share that with you. And I'll take any questions you have, or no questions if you have, since I've already exhausted all of the air you have in your lungs with my pen exercise.
So you talked a little bit about brainstorming, and there's a lot of research that says that brainstorming just doesn't work. In fact, like since brainstorming began, research has said it doesn't work. Why do you feel that it's worked for you?
I think it absolutely...
In what way are you doing it differently than other people that makes it work?
If you don't do it right, it will not work. And we used to not do it right? And here's how we used to do it. We'd sit around in a room, and we would say, we need to brainstorm some ideas. And so someone would throw something out. And then it would usually be me, to be honest, if I was in the room, and say, I'm not so sure about that one. Let's keep going, right? And, what about this? Really, that's not going to work because we have this problem or we have that problem or it doesn't address this need or we don't have that resource. And we did this exercise, okay, when we started doing this, and it was really powerful to me, where we did this party planning exercise. You'd sit in a group of 4 people, and one person would be the party planner, and 3 people would be sort of their support team. And the party planner would, the first version of this was, try to problem solve as you plan this party, right? So you're going to have let's say you're going to have a party. The first person is going to be the party planner, is going to come up with the ideas. The other 3 people are going to problem solve as you go. And so the person would say, I'm going to go do a Halloween party. The other people, I'm not sure. We just had a party in the summer. Halloween's a little close. How about a Christmas party? Okay, we'll do a Christmas party. Man, that's kind of a religious thing. Should we really do a Christmas? Okay, we'll do a winter party. Okay, well, what's the theme? Well, the theme is snow. Do we have to bring in snow? Are we going to have real snow? Is it going to be snow that's going to be fake snow? Is people going to slip on it? And that's what, then we said, okay, now all you can do is yes and. Now all you can do is accept, you don't have to agree, but accept and build on it, right? We're going to have a Halloween party. Oh, that's cool. Everyone could come in costumes. Oh, that's great. We can use the bunting that we have left over, and all of a sudden you get craziness. Now, some of that craziness doesn't make any sense. It's pure craziness. It's not, but it gets you to a place that works. So what we do for brainstorming to take this up is 2 things, maybe more. I can think of 2 right now. One is we don't even worry about writing anything down. We don't even worry about writing anything down. We simply talk and yes and build on stuff. Then we stop when that's done, and we have a set time limit, which is also very important. You don't do this for an extended period of time. You know you're going to do this for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and then you stop. Then you take out a piece of paper, and you say, what did we say? And you write it down. And what happens is you're still brainstorming. You're like, oh, you know what, and we could do this. But you've moved into another phase where you're actually capturing instead of trying to capture and talk at the same time. And then what we do is we put those lists all over the office, and we leave them there for a week. We don't even try to think about what's good ideas or bad ideas. We just leave them up, and people walk by, and they write another idea as they think about it. You have to separate, like, logically, physically, temporally, the time when you are using one skill, collecting the ideas, and using another skill, distilling the ideas. Both are really important, but if they're not super separated, you'll kill it. You'll totally kill it. That's how we've seen it work. Yeah.
Tamsin Aspinall from Informer. Who was it that helped you devise this process, or did it just come out of your organization?
No, it didn't. Thank you. It's a good question. We wouldn't have been able to do this ourselves. There's actually a discipline, I guess you could call it, called applied improv. And if you Google it or if you ask a question on Ask about it, you will find that there's a network of folks all over the country who've been practicing this and teaching this for years. They oftentimes go into companies and do a one, half-day seminar on this kind of stuff. We went crazy and said our whole company is going to try and change this culturally and incorporate this all the time. We used a woman called Sue Walden. She's at a company called Improv Works. There's a lot of folks out there, but it's been fantastic. And we have her back. We've started to build a curriculum around this. So it's how does improv help you interview candidates? How does improv help you present topics to management? How does improv help you negotiate? We take this and we build a whole curriculum around it. But you don't have to do that. These folks are terrific. They've been studying this for years, and it's not theater. This is all applied. It's how does it get into your business and make your business change. Any other questions? Yes?
Up and you went with it, but
Yeah.
I was just wondering what kind of recommendations you would say when you want to bring something like this up and you're not the CEO.
So that's it's a great question because I agree with you. If I wasn't the CEO, this this would have been harder to do, certainly widespread. But the lesson in this is start with the area that you can control, right? Start with a team, start with a group. You will see, I believe, pretty fundamental changes in the way you think through things. Now, this happens a progression, and we're still in that progression. Like, you'll start learning about yes and the first thing you'll do is you'll point out to other people when they don't do it, right? You'll say, you're not yes-anding me. You're not accepting what I'm saying, right? That's the first phase. And then the second phase is, well, I'm not doing it. Wow, I'm not listening, and I'm not being open and flexible. And then the third phase is you don't even think about it anymore. It's just a skill, and you use the skill when you need to, and you don't use it when you don't. But if you give yourself that time to do it, just with your team, the results, I believe, will speak for themselves. And then people will start saying, how'd you do it? But the problem with it is crazy. It's by design and by intent crazy and outrageous. And if you allow yourself to go there, you get to places that you didn't expect that are really positive. But you might have to contain that behind a wall where you don't want someone to see that you're being crazy until they're ready to accept it, and the results will prove that. Any other questions? Is that?
So, quick question for you,
Yes.
Doug. So you.
Just so you know, you're probably sitting in the worst spot in the place to ask a question. If you
Strategically
you ask
placed
the
because the
question,
light's hitting
yeah,
right at you, right?
It's like
it's perfect. It's like I'm the cop and you're
it's
the.
It's just something over there in the haze.
10:15 p.m. Where were you last night? No, so, do you have an alibi? So, timeline-wise, all jokes aside, timeline-wise, how long ago was it that you implemented this, and what do you have tangible today that's come out of it that's made an impact?
So we started it. I'd started my executive team doing it, figuring we would be the guinea pigs for the company in the late fall, October, November timeframe, and rolled it out to the company in the beginning of the year or the end of last year. I can't remember. Before. Well, it doesn't really matter. Around that time frame, we actually rented the Golden State Warriors basketball court and had the whole company go to the Golden State Warriors practice facility and did it on a court and rolled it out to the whole team there. And so we've been doing this now every Friday formally and then informally since the beginning of the year. So what is that? Almost 5 months now. And we have one very successful product to show for it that came out of this, which is an app called Poll Roll, which is getting unbelievable engagement. It's a Q&A app, but it's not anything we'd ever done before, and you can download it for iPhone if you have iPhone now. We have, as I said, a new way of launching code to our site, which a release process, which puts the developers in charge of release instead of a release team and operations folks, which cut our deployment by 50%. We have new statistical engines. I mean, this is the point of all this is it's not just you don't just see it in a product. You see it in systems. You see it in all across the board because the point is you're attacking everything. It's like if you hadn't heard of a meeting before, and someone said to you, "What do you use meetings for? And what success have you had out of meetings?" Well, you use it for everything. You use it for everything you do. And if you try to tie back all the things that you're doing to how many came from a meeting, right, it might be hard to do. These are some examples. For me, the biggest thing was we actually got to the point where we have the next strategic, opportunity for us that I think makes a lot of sense for Ask. That was my goal on this the whole time. Now, we haven't actually started doing it, but we've identified it, which is huge, and now we're going after executing on it. Anything else? All right.
Great. Thanks
Thank you
again,
very
Doug.
much.
Appreciate it.